there's been anyone who's influenced your career, either from a promotional standpoint, training standpoint, or even perhaps fighting technique?
I almost don't like to answer that because there's been so many people that I'll probably leave somebody out, but all the Jeet Kune Do people from California, Dan Inosanto, Richard Bustillo, Paul Vunak, Matt Serra's been a huge influence. I had a kid, Mike Ryan, he's a local kid, one of the first guys I trained in kickboxing. I mean, he was a huge influence on the way I taught, the way I sparred, the way I did everything. Oh man, I don't even want to leave. Every one of my students has influenced me. I don't even want to touch that, but hopefully I highlighted a couple of guys.
Okay. If you could talk a little bit about
my partner Luke Neglia in the promotions, he's influenced me a lot on in the early days, bringing my guys to spar his guys, just seeing how everything works. There's been a lot of guys.
Okay. If you could describe your personal relationship with Matt Serra, Luke Kumo, and I guess Pete Drago.
Yeah, sure. My relationship with Matt Serra is probably my best friend at this time. Luke Kumo, he teaches for me. He's a great guy. He's a close friend. Drago's, everybody, we're just really a pretty close-knit group of friends. Matt, I obviously have a special relationship with because of all the time spent together. But yeah, everybody's just close. Good group of guys.
Now, you're a leading authority in this as well. If you could discuss some of the ways a fighter, let's say, makes weight and then rehydrates. It's obviously not the safest thing, but in as safe a way as possible to do that.
Yeah, normally when it comes to weight, I get out. I don't really say anything. I can tell you what they do, but I struggle with my weight every day. So for me, I'd almost feel like a hypocrite answering that. But they have it down to, Matt, Drago, they have it down to a science now where they do the water loading, and there's a diet they follow, which is basically simplifying chicken and brown rice, specific portions. They cook up like 15 pounds of chicken. They put it in Tupperware containers, so every 2 or 3 hours they could eat, and they do the water loading at the end. And I don't even think Matt at once. I don't even think he got in the sauna last time. Works pretty good. So, but I never tried it, so I wouldn't know.
You've also been a promoter. Could you tell us about some of the events that you've hosted, perhaps some memorable events that you promoted?
Well, I do the Ring of Combat with my partner Lou Neglia. I do the combat at the Capital. I've had a lot of, anytime my guy wins a championship, I think is a memorable moment to me. I started, Matt started fighting locally, so some of those fights were, even the beginning fights, just getting them going were memorable. Chris Meudman just had won a big fight. He's a Ring of Combat champ a couple of months ago. That was huge. Anytime my guys are winning what is an exciting fight, it's a memorable moment to me.
What, at this point, would you say would be your dream match for Matt Serra, or if there is one?
But the dream match for me, I'd like to see a rematch with BJ Penn. I said this in an interview, and it wasn't to call out BJ Penn. I just think those two guys, they're getting towards the end of their careers, and I really want Matt to just fight like bigger name guys, pick and choose a couple of his fights that I think people would be interested in. I think at this point, Matt's confident enough in his hands that they'll just sit there and probably beat the crap out of each other. BJ's got good hands. I think Matt hits hard, and I think their jiu-jitsu negates itself. I think it would be a great, entertaining fight. And respect BJ, I think he's one of the best fighters ever, so it has nothing to do with calling somebody out or something. I just thought it would be a great matchup.
Okay. So you worked as an accountant for 6 years after graduating from St. John's. Now, in a seismically different sort of way, that's a very demanding profession in its own right. So how were you able to transition from a steady desk job into teaching martial arts?
Yeah, well, first off, the fact that it was so demanding, and I'm going to say, my brother's a CPA. He was a Price Waterhouse guy. He's got his own practice now. He's about as into accounting as I'm into martial arts. I just never really felt the passion for accounting and I didn't think I was ever going to be the best accountant, so I had to get the hell out of there. But it was a great experience. I was doing martial arts while I was doing accounting, and I think I was actually started to teach some of the executives where I was working, and I think that's how it really all started with the teaching. I always loved teaching, and actually I was doing that while I was doing the accounting, and then I just segued right into when I left accounting, I started teaching.
At this point, do you have any other entrepreneurial efforts that you're working on?
The only thing I'd like to do now is I started a book on me and Matt's relationship from the time I met him, doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right up until the point of when he won the championship. And there's like 2 chapters done, but hopefully that'll get done. But that's the only thing I'd really like to do right now. And then there's a couple other guys in the gym I'd like to elevate them to the UFC level, and hopefully they'll become champions.
Okay, and are there any new fighters on the horizon you see as becoming major contenders? Maybe guys working their way up through the prelims where maybe their style or something you say, wow, like make you stand up and take notice?
Like my guys or just anybody?
It could be your guys, it could be...
And like we have a kid in here, Chris Weidman, who I spoke about before. I'd be in shock if he doesn't make it. He's an absolute beast. His stand-up is awesome, he's got the right attitude. His wrestling is, world class. Ally Quinta, these guys, they have a couple injuries, so injuries, barring any future injuries, I could see these guys doing really good. And the guys I like this kid Edson Barbosa. He's a real strong leg kicker. I'm always going to favor the stand-up guys coming up. He looks pretty good in the UFC. I really have to thank Frankie. He's a champion, but I watched him grow up. You knew he was destined to do great things. Who else is there? Again, I don't want to leave anybody. So, but I like this kid Weidman, and I like Ally Quinta from here. They're really, they're both on the prospect list, and I think if you go back and look at any of their fights, you'll agree with me that they have something different, and they're aggressive, they're technical, they're fun to watch, and also we have a Costa Filippo, who's a pro boxer, who he's looking like he's making waves now too. He just won his last 6 fights, so I think that's it.
Just the last question: what would you say is the most important quality or asset for an aspiring fighter?
To me, it's really the desire. Do you have the desire? Do you really have the desire to fight? Do you want to fight? Almost like taking Dana White sounds like bullshit. Do you want to fight? You have to enjoy fighting. And there was a kid who was, he was a little sick, and he backed out of a fight at the last minute. And I was like, man, would you go to a concert right now? If you really wanted to see that band play, would you go? And you probably would go. So you don't really want to fight, you know what I mean? And that's really the key. Do you want to? You have to really, really enjoy fighting to make it in this thing. Really. And you could see some of the guys in the UFC and all of these. You could tell the guys that like to fight, and you could tell the guys that don't like to fight. They fight a little scared at times. But it's the desire and really just having the passion for fighting. And I think those are the best qualities you can have.
All right. Well, Ray, thank you very much for your time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.